Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive paradigm shift that's fundamentally flipping the script on global food systems and farmer poverty. For decades, we've poured so much money into seeds, tractors, and irrigation, yet smallholder farmers somehow remain trapped in these brutal cycles of unpredictable income. Why is that? Well, it's mostly because we've been trying to fix a software problem with hardware solutions. Today, we're going to explore how a brand new digital coordination layer is completely rewiring agricultural value flows, and in the process, solving a structural mismatch that has literally plagued farming for generations. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the agricultural coordination gap, explore the harvest and sell trap, flip that to sell and harvest, look at building the digital bridge, dive into data, trust, and indigenous knowledge, and finally wrap up with securing the food future. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The Agricultural Coordination Gap, a system out of sync. So, here's the core mismatch we're dealing with. On one hand, farmers have to navigate probabilistic cultivation. Farming is, at its heart, biology, right? Predicting rain or a sudden pest outbreak is basically a gamble. But on the other side of the equation, modern deterministic supply chains, think supermarkets, processors, exporters, they don't want probabilities. They demand absolute, rigid certainty. They want exact quantities, specific delivery dates, and pre-negotiated set pricing. What happens here is a massive coordination gap. Probabilistic farming literally crashes headfirst into deterministic markets. And it's really important to understand that this is a structural failure, not a lack of farmer capacity. When these two systems clash like this, everyone just ends up operating defensively. Buyers avoid smallholder farmers because they're viewed as risky, and the farmers themselves are left completely isolated from the reliable modern economy. Moving on to Section 2, the harvest and sell trap, farming as a gamble. In the traditional setup, which is known as the harvest and sell pattern, farmers are essentially planting and nurturing completely blind. They're forced to wait until after the crop is physically pulled from the ground to even start finding a buyer. Think about what that actually means. The clock is ticking. Perishability instantly destroys any bargaining leverage they might have had. If everyone in the whole region harvests tomatoes this week, the local market floods, the prices just completely crash, and farmers are left scrambling to sell at a huge loss before their crop rots. Because of this totally reactive scramble at the last-minute dynamic, a staggering 14% of all food produced globally is lost right between the harvest and the retail stage. Just let that sink in for a second. 14%. We are literally throwing away mountains of food simply because we can't coordinate its movement in time. That's a massive economic drain on struggling farmers and just a terrible, terrible waste of environmental resources. Section 3. Flipped, sell, and harvest. Let's talk about rewiring that timeline. So imagine completely flipping the script here. What if, by using digital cultivation data and buyer demand signals, we align the sale at month 0? Before a single seed is even planted, we create a digital bridge. The farmer actually knows what to plant, exactly how much to plant, and precisely who is buying it in month 3. The entire risk profile changes overnight. The HarvestFlow architecture actually takes those cultivation time probabilities and converts them into firm supply chain commitments upfront. It shifts the whole industry away from that post-harvest panic and into pre-harvest alignment. It just takes the massive, stressful gamble entirely out of the equation for both the farmer and the buyer. All right, Section 4. Building the digital bridge, the 4 layers of HarvestFlow. This system relies on 4 incredibly interconnected layers that progressively strip away uncertainty before any physical produce even moves. We go all the way from broad ecosystem-level data down to the physical movement of a single, trackable crate. Starting with Layer 1, a platform called Governana aggregates projected supply and demand digitally. This gives us macro-level intelligence. Before anything actually grows, the system maps the national food ecosystem, spotting potential surpluses or shortages literally months in advance. It's kind of like having a highly advanced radar for the future of our food supply. Then in Layer 2, the system groups smallholder farmers together logically. Say a commercial buyer needs 5 tons of tomatoes. One single farmer obviously can't provide that, but a digital cluster of 20 farmers absolutely can. The system matches these commitments probabilistically based on early data, hitting those commercial volume constraints without prematurely mixing up their physical crops. Now, Layer 3 tackles a really massive hurdle: behavioral uncertainty. How do the buyers know the farmer is actually going to deliver? And how do farmers know they'll actually get paid? Enter the WIDYA analytical engine. It introduces crop and market readiness scores. By tracking things like weather, field evidence, and historical reliability, it acts as a vital institutionalized trust mechanism between buyers and farmers. Finally, we have layer 4. This is the digital first, physical last logic. The actual physical movement of the crop only gets triggered after the digital matching and quality checks are totally complete. And crucially, it maintains crate-level traceability, so the produce isn't just dumped into one massive anonymous pile. This preserves the farmer's identity, it rewards high quality, and it allows them to build a really strong market reputation over time. Section 5. Data, Trust, and Indigenous Knowledge. This is the socio-technical context. Of course, we have to anchor all this digital routing to physical realities, right? By mapping out minimum loss benchmarks, supply chains can target highly specific physical interventions. For cereals, that means moisture tracking. For fruits and veggies, it's continuous temperature tracking. The digital bridge only really succeeds if the physical logistics are optimized to save the food once it starts moving. But this data taxonomy isn't just about modern sensors and cold chains. It absolutely must deeply respect and integrate traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK. We're talking about holistic systems that have successfully managed lands over generations. They support millions of hectares globally with minimal chemical inputs, utilizing things like cultural fire practices and diversified polycropping to build incredible climate resilience. And this part is absolutely vital. Under UN agreements, this new digital infrastructure has to protect Indigenous data sovereignty. As we synthesize agricultural knowledge, practices like community seed banking and the use of native cultivars must be integrated fairly. These traditional methods act as a genetic reserve for modern climate adaptation, and the communities that steward them must be protected and included as true partners. Section 6. Securing the food future, scaling the impact. So, is this actually happening? Yes. Over in Sri Lanka, the SARP WIDYA initiative is proving this is absolutely not science fiction. They are scaling this exact sell and harvest bridge to reach 40,000 farmers right now. To make it work on the ground, they deploy village agri-entrepreneurs. These local leaders facilitate the human interface. They help with farmer onboarding, data capture, and crate-level logistics, proving for sure that successful digital transformation has to be socially embedded. There's a quote here that beautifully summarizes the ultimate takeaway of our whole explainer today. Agricultural investment must evolve beyond purely boosting physical production to funding digital market coordination. Because honestly, better seeds, subsidies, and irrigation just aren't enough if the underlying market coordination is still totally broken. If we want stable incomes for farmers, we have to invest in the digital coordination economy. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If we actually have the data and the architecture to predict global market demand and align it months in advance, isn't it our responsibility to stop forcing farmers to gamble with our food supply? It's time to build the bridge. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you a powerful new perspective on the future of global food security.